Welcome to the Northern Road Link virtual open house. We will start things off by giving an overview presentation of the project and the EA terms of reference. I should note that this video will also be available on the project website, northernroadlink.ca. We've also done an OG Cree translation of the video, and it is now available on the project website. During and after the presentation, please call or text us with your comments or questions at 1-844-424-0500 with your comments or questions. And we look forward to those comments and questions. And enjoy the video. We'll come back and then we'll speak with our panel and ask them a few questions, and we'll talk to you in a few minutes.
Okay, welcome to open house number 1 of the Northern Road Link project. This presentation is an overview of the project and the terms of reference. If you have any questions, you can submit them via email at info@northernroadlink.ca or call 1-888-515-3607. So for today's discussion, we will be covering the Chief's messages, the project overview and background, engagement and consultation, capacity opportunities, overview of the EA process, overview of proposed studies for the terms of reference, and the preliminary terms of reference schedule. So this slide is showing the Chief's messages, Chief Bruce from Martin Falls First Nation and Chief Cornelius from Webequie First Nation. You can read these also anytime on the Northern Road Link website. So the project background, Martin Falls First Nation and Webequie First Nation are the client of this project. They are both remote Indigenous communities not currently accessible by all-season road, and they are both committed to the sustainable development of their traditional territories. In 2018, Martin Falls started collecting information on past studies done on a road that could connect Martin Falls Community Access Road to the Ring of Fire. A few community level events were used to present this information and get feedback, and as a result, a number of route alternatives were developed and some historic alternatives were amended to account for community values. This background work became the starting point for the Northern Road Link project. And in March 2020, the province of Ontario, Martin Falls First Nation, and Webequie First Nation announced an agreement to work together. And this is how we have arrived at this point today. So this slide is just showing the project organizational chart. We have Webequie First Nation and Martin Falls First Nation, the chief and council, as well as all the community members. And we have 2 working group members from each community. At strategic level, we have the EA management team. We also have a technical level, which is SNC Lavalin and Dillon, and then an operational level. And all of these people work together to keep this project moving. So right now we have a preliminary study area. The proposed Northern Road Link is a multi-use road located between Martin Falls First Nation Community Access Road and the eastern end of the Webequie Supply Road. The Northern Road Link will connect the Ring of Fire mineral deposit area in the McFalds Lake area to the highway network via the Martin Falls Community Access Road. The Northern Road Link will include approximately 155-kilometer all-season gravel road, which will consist of a 60-meter cleared area and an approximate 11-meter wide multi-use road, undivided lanes, shoulders, and ditches. Parts of the project will include many water crossings, including a large bird crossing of the Attawapiskat River. Ancillary structures will include borrow areas, aggregate sources, quarry sites, temporary access roads, and temporary work areas and construction camps. So for this project, some of the preliminary engineering considerations will include safety, the northern conditions, drainage, and the environment, constructability of the road, including costs and maintenance. Some of the preliminary design criteria that'll be used will be depth and width of the road, design speed, and culvert sizes. Some of the engineering studies to determine this will include vertical alignment, horizontal alignment, as well as gravel sources for road construction. So this slide, which is slide number 10, will show you how the NRL interacts with the other projects. So on the right-hand side of the map, in purple, you can see the Martin Falls Community Access Road. And on the north side, in red, you see the Webequie Supply Road. And you see how the Northern Road Link connects with both projects and links them. Part of the project, a very large component of the project, is the engagement and consultation. A component of that project is developing a consultation and engagement plan, which we have prepared for the terms of reference, and a separate plan will be prepared for the environmental assessment. The purpose of the consultation engagement is to promote effective communication between the proponents, to identify concerns, identify relevant information, relevant guidelines, policies, and standards, to facilitate a list of required approvals, licenses, and permits, and to provide guidance to the proponent about the preparation of the terms of reference and the EA documents. Engagement and consultation objectives. The consultation efforts will provide opportunities for Indigenous people to be meaningfully engaged and share Indigenous knowledge so that we can incorporate this information into the environmental assessment. The Indigenous knowledge that has been shared may support the EA process as well as the EA studies. And the NRL project team and Martin Falls First Nation and Webequie First Nation are committed to conducting a comprehensive and meaningful consultation engagement process for the project. So the engagement and consultation principles on slide 13. Essentially, these activities will embrace the following general principles: be meaningful, transparent, inclusive and accessible, flexible, and collaborative. So the guiding principles that we will be following include a mutual recognition of inherent rights, a mutual recognition of ancestral knowledge, mutual recognition of traditional knowledge and practices, mutual recognition of clan families and relationships, recognition of sustainable livelihood, and traditional protocols. Slide 14 summarizes the three-tier approach that is being used for the engagement and consultation. The three tiers are closely connected and they depend on each other. The inner part of the core, the tiers is the core. And this is representing the communities of Martin Falls and Webequie First Nation and their overall well-being. Includes physical health, mental health, education, employment opportunities. The second layer is the relational tier. And this is basically recognizing culture, language, traditional activities, ancestral knowledge, and how everything interacts together. And the outside tier is called the foundational tier. And this is basically treaties and partnerships with other stakeholders and government and regulatory agencies. So slide 15 is another slide on engagement and consultation. And this is just summarizing how it will be delivered in alignment with the terms of reference consultation plan. During this part of the project, we have 2 rounds of open houses. And during these open houses, there will be opportunity to gather information from the project website, from newsletters, other future open houses, one-on-one meetings, community meetings, live streams, etc. Unfortunately, at this time, due to COVID-19, all of the community meetings will still be virtual until such a point that the communities are comfortable with team members coming into the community. Slide 16 is just a list of the project rights holders and stakeholders. It is a list of all of the communities that we will be engaging with throughout this whole process. Slide 17 shows other project stakeholders such as neighboring municipalities, various government agencies, as well as recreational and commercial stakeholders. Slide 18 is summarizing capacity opportunities. So on the left, we have sharing and use of Indigenous knowledge. So this is just summarizing the Indigenous knowledge and how we would like to go about collecting it. The communities will undertake an case study with their own consultant with support of capacity funding, and then communities that would like the support of the NRL project team and those with relevant expertise affiliated with the project to help prepare and carry out an IK study plan with them. Community consultation coordinators will be identified to help facilitate this process and collect this information. Another way we have capacity opportunity is through field studies. When we're out in the field and doing our baseline work, we're always looking for volunteers to come along with our field teams, and that'll be carrying on into the field season of 2022. Slide 19 is starting the environmental assessment process. So the purpose of an EA is to support the planning and decision making to identify, predict, and evaluate the potential effects of a proposed project. It provides government and public bodies information to consider potential effects of the proposed project, and it includes a large component of engagement with rights holders and stakeholders to inform the process. So this project is going to be a combined provincial environmental assessment as well as a federal environmental assessment. We are starting first with the provincial environmental assessment project. The very first phase of that plan, which is the planning phase, is the terms of reference, which we are currently drafting. And this first open house is one of the first opportunities to provide comment on this process. So just to explain the terms of reference, it's actually a large document that is our work plan for the environmental assessment. It describes what's going to be done in the environmental assessment so that we can identify impacts of the project, and that'll include natural, cultural, social, and economic impacts, and we can prepare appropriate mitigation measures. Your comments on this document are really important because they help determine what will be included in the terms of reference and what will be included in the study, so that we know what is most important to you, so that we can make sure that that information is getting collected. So this is just a slide, number 23, showing the provincial terms of reference process. The main part of the slide that's important to take note of are the points where these little yellow people are, and those are the areas or the parts of the process where your input is required, where you have a chance to actually provide your comments. So the first phase was during the notice of commencement, which was published in May. And when the draft terms of reference is posted, you will have a chance to comment then. And the same thing when we have the final terms of reference submitted, which will be spring, summer of 2022. The draft terms of reference will be later this fall, early this winter. So on slide 24, this shows the federal process, the flow chart. The federal process doesn't actually start until we have approval of the terms of reference, which is the provincial process. And part of the way in which the federal process differs from the provincial is that we don't actually submit a terms of reference for the federal government. They more or less submit that for us, and that's called the Tailored Impact Statement Guidelines. And they issue those after we've provided them an initial project description for comment, and then we submit the detailed project description as a final deliverable, and then the federal government issues the guidelines of how they want us to go forward with the project. Some of the deliverables in the federal EA process include study plans. So for each of the valued components where we will be doing field work, and these are on the right, and they include things like noise, geology, terrain and soils, wildlife, birds. We prepare study plans to explain how we're going to conduct our field work, how we're going to conduct the impact assessment, and give a summary of mitigation measures within those study plans also. Within this process, we submit an initial project description. So that is kind of like the terms of reference. It's a summary of the terms of reference. And then once that is approved, then we submit the detailed project description to the feds. And then, as I described a couple of slides ago, the federal government then issues the tailored impact statement guidelines, which is sort of like the terms of reference. Part of the study is all of our baseline studies. That's how we identify what the condition is of the environment right now. And it gives us something to compare to when we're looking at potential impacts of the project. So the following slides will provide an overview of some of the baseline studies that we are planning to conduct. In addition to the baseline studies, this is where we will incorporate Indigenous knowledge. So if you look at the little schematic on the right-hand side, and you see at the bottom with the little basket that shows baseline conditions. So this is the information that we've gathered out in the field. And for this example, we are using fish and fish habitat. So we've gone out and collected our information, and then we're going to be taking the Indigenous knowledge that we've collected from communities, and it could include fishing sites, spawning locations, cultural values and teachings, fish abundance information, and anything else related, such as fish health, for example. And we take this Indigenous knowledge and mix it together with the baseline information that our field teams have collected in the field, and we mash it together as best we can, because they both support one another, and this is how we come up with our baseline studies. And this applies to all of the study plans that I mentioned in the slides previously. So we'll do the same thing for birds, for wildlife, for species at risk, for terrain and soils, archaeology, socioeconomics, etc. So again, Indigenous knowledge and Indigenous land and resource use. There's many ways to use it within the EA, such as capturing a variety of voices, ideas, and concerns in project planning. It will increase our understanding of the existing environmental conditions within the study area. It's very important because we can only collect what we can, but it's really important to get information from the communities to support the information that we've been collecting. It'll identify culturally important species and sites. It'll help us locate important habitat areas, perhaps areas that we aren't aware of because we don't live there. It'll increase our understanding of the health and abundance of any specific species. It'll especially help us with route planning by pointing out areas to avoid, culturally significant sites, or somebody's trap line, or this is our favorite fishing spot, or this is where we like to hunt moose. And this is the kind of information we're looking at, so that when we're figuring out where to put the route, so we can help guide it. Some of the physical environment studies will include greenhouse gas and emissions, air quality, noise, geology, terrain and soils, groundwater, surface water, as well as a visual assessment. The biological environmental studies include wildlife, breeding birds, waterfowl surveys, fish community and fish habitat, and vegetation. The socioeconomic studies include population, housing, infrastructure and services, employment and economy, as well as community well-being. Other studies that are going to be conducted, including archaeological. At this point, it'll just be a stage 1 assessment, which is usually just a desktop. A human health assessment, and cultural continuity and well-being study. So back to the terms of reference schedule. So in the spring of 2021, we submitted the notice of commencement of the terms of reference. We've been preparing the draft terms of reference and the project introduction. Continuing in this fall and winter, we have open house number 1. We will be submitting the draft terms of reference as well as a record of consultation, which will also include a notice of draft terms of reference for review. This is one of the stages that I was talking about earlier, where you will have a chance to comment. And then in the spring and summer of 2022, we'll be producing the final terms of reference. There'll be an open house number 2, another record of consultation, as well as another point in time for you to participate through providing comments. That is the end of our survey. Sorry, our presentation. If you could please complete the survey, it is available on the website. And if you need more information, you can send an email to info@northernroadlink.ca. You can check out the website at northernroadlink.com, or you can call anytime the 1-800 number at 1-888-515-3607.
Welcome back, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the video talking about the project and introducing the environmental assessment terms of reference. Next, I think I'd like to introduce our panel of subject matter experts. I'll start with nearest to me. We have Mr. Qasim Sadiq, who is one of the project co-leads for the Northern Road Link project. Next to him, to his right, is Michael Fox, another project co-lead for the project. And then beside Michael is Ange Brooks, who's the project manager from SNC Lavalin. So, welcome aboard. We have some questions for you. So, let me kick things off here. The first question, and you can decide amongst yourselves who answers them. Just, spread it around a bit. No one can take over. The first question is, when will the EA be done? This question's from Wesley. Anyone want to take that one on?
Yeah, sure. I can start.
Meaning completed, when I say done. Completed. When do you
Yeah.
anticipate completion?
Yeah, no, that's a good question and an appropriate question. We've just sort of notice of commencement for the terms of reference for the provincial process came out in May. And over the summer months, we continued to provide information about the project through live streams and radio shows. Any community or stakeholder that wanted to have a conversation with us, we were available for those chats. And now today, yesterday and today as well, we're doing the open house to provide more information on the project, but really to start a collaborative process with communities and with stakeholders around what do they think about the project? What do they want to see with this project? So we're keen to get that input and that feedback, and based on that, we will create and release our draft terms of reference. So for now, the anticipated project schedule is that draft will come out in the fall. Based on feedback received, we'll incorporate that, and sort of spring to summer 2022, we will have a revised proposed tour for submission to MECP. So that's the schedule we've defined to this stage. Assuming that the decision comes in the summer, we'll issue the notice of commencement for the environmental assessment process. The federal process will continue in parallel. We're hoping for a coordinated process. And at that stage, that can take an additional 2 to 3 years, because we're expected to do 2 years of baseline studies based on past experience after the TISGs from the federal process are received. So all said and done, after the approval stage of the tour, we're potentially looking at up to 3 additional years for the environmental assessment to be complete. So I think the short message in that long response really is that there's ample time built into this process to get input and feedback from communities, to be in communities, to have them participate in meetings with us, in direct discussions, to receive comments, and to provide feedback or incorporate all of that knowledge and values into the process. Michael, anything that you might want to add?
Oh, that's well covered.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Qasim. Great points there. And based on what you said, you know, there's so many opportunities for community input during this process, all through the process. So we're looking forward to that. That helps shape the environmental assessment and makes it as comprehensive as possible. Okay, next question. This one is from Virginia. And the question is, how will community members be involved in the environmental assessment? Who wants to take that one on?
Good question. So we were talking about the end of the process. Here we are in the beginning. And in the beginning of this process, the terms of reference, or the development of the terms of reference, because we actually don't have a draft terms of reference yet. But today is an example of an opportunity for participation for community members. Here in Thunder Bay, we have had 2 days, 2 days of open houses. So any off-reserve members can actually participate live with us and see the storyboards we have all around this room, and meet the team from SNC in Dillon, and understand the different components of the Northern Road Link project and process that we're undertaking in the development of the terms of reference, as well as the public review period. We'll have other opportunities for community members to participate in, to get their input, their insight for the tour. And you can do that through, we're going to have live streaming events, again, the radios and the social media. But during the EA, you know, let's assume we have an improved tour. There's field studies, all kinds of field studies that Angela and her team and Dylan will be out there. Like many other projects across Canada, we have Indigenous members from the communities participating in those field studies. In fact, they have posters that are in the communities that they look for folks to help guide them, to support them in that field work. In some cases, it's the community members doing the field work.
Yes.
So there are going to be opportunities for that. There'll be opportunities as well in participating in different types of surveys. So like the socioeconomic survey, the country foods survey, the human health impact survey. You know, all kinds of studies are going to roll out from the tour, as well as from the federal government, where community members can participate in. But there's going to be different touch points. And in those touch points, we've had another project as well, is participation of translators, you know, at the community information sessions, so that, you know, it takes some time sometimes for translators to understand the technical terms or to kind of translate them. So we like to work with them, collaborate with them in those translation initiatives that we have. So I think in this particular project, I think we're offering community coordinators. You know, that's another opportunity for participation, actually having someone in your community for those communities that are less communities we have to engage with and consult with. So there are numerous touch points and opportunities to participate in the early stages, all the way through the EA field studies, to the consultation events, and then the public review sessions that we'll have, just like we're having now.
Thank you, Michael. We have another question here, this time from Stan. And the question is, where are the aggregates located along the proposed road corridor?
Sure. Yeah, no, that's a good question. And, you know, given the stage that we're at in the process, what I would suggest is have a look at the study area map, and that's the map that we're asking for input and feedback on at this stage. And any type of input and feedback is very valuable at this stage, and it really helps us set the project up with appropriate parameters and consider things that concern communities around the project as well as the general public and stakeholders. In terms of the location of the aggregate, we don't have that available to share at this stage in the project, and we will at some point later on in the project as we become more advanced, we conduct more studies on the ground, we get to understand the lay of the land in a more detailed fashion, though that information will be shared. Now, the aggregate sources are interesting because they lead to access roads or what's called ancillary infrastructure as part of the environmental assessment process. The aggregate sources might not be exactly right next to the corridor. They might be a few kilometers away. So you've got to create haul roads, which is a part of the project footprint. And this information would be available throughout the environmental assessment process. So as it becomes available, the location, the related infrastructure required with those sites, Dawn, that would be made available for commentary, from input from communities and from stakeholders as well. Anything to add to that? No?
Thank you, Qasim. We have one more question here, this one from Dorothy, and I think I know who this question's going to. What are species at risk?
Another good question. Well, a species at risk is any naturally occurring species that is at risk of extinction or disappearing from the province. And within our study area, we have a number of species at risk. Some of the ones that people are more familiar with would be caribou, wolverine, and lake sturgeon. There's also a number of bird species that are at risk, and I don't think we actually have any plant species at risk this far north. They're all in the south.
Thank you, Ange. We don't have any further questions. Any more comments from our panel? Anything you'd like to add? Or?
So just a reminder, Don, quickly to the audience that we are at the Delta in Thunder Bay today from 2 to 4, and then again from 6 to 8 p.m. If you're around, please come by. Our teams are available to sort of talk about the project, to provide more information, to get your feedback and input. And there's a survey available, which is available online as well,
correct.
Which helps us understand how we can better communicate with you, consult with you as the project develops. So please check out the website, and if you're in Thunder Bay, please come by between 2 and 4 or 6 and 8 at the Delta. Thank you.
Thanks, Qasim. And that our website, as I mentioned before the video, it also has the Ojibwe translation of the video you saw earlier. So we would really encourage community members to go and check that out. It's easy to find on the website. And I'd just like to thank our panel and everyone for joining us today. And if you joined us yesterday, thank you for joining us yesterday. And as Qasim said, we encourage you, if you're in town, to come to the open house today between 2 and 4 and 6 and 8. And if you're not able to, just keep in touch with us via the website and social media. Thanks very much for joining us.